Okay. Planetside 2 Tactics Show. Welcome all. You see, I've come across this huge battle going on down here. For Benson Construction. The NC have just rolled the biolab and then the data storage, and they're all heading towards Benson Construction. Now, as you see, there's a lot of armour coming in, a hell of a lot of armour. And you know, there's enemy vehicles trying to roll out to force the NC back. And the VS is setting up a nice perimeter down here. They've got a couple of Sunderers sat there pouring troops out. They've got armour surrounding the Sunderers, even though the armour's not doing a great job of defending it at the moment. What they need to do is get some more heavy armour guys out there. Heavy assault guys, sorry, and start nailing these tanks. There's a lot of NC tanks over near that rock formation there. As you can see by the shells just pouring in on the VS, which is forcing them back, which is good tactics by the NC. See a couple of guys caught in the open there. Now, the NC have just rolled in overwhelming forces there in armour. If the VS can hold that armour off and keep the troops on the perimeter there and start taking out these tanks, then it's going to be very hard to take Benson Construction, just due to the fact there's a lot of choke points here for troops. NC could do with starting to roll in some more Sunderers. They've got one over here, which would be a good place to deploy. Could do with one over near this edge, this ridge line maybe, which would be over in that area there. Get, as you see by that tank, it's really dark down there, so if they can get one parked in there, start pouring troops over that hill and keeping the spawn point there secured, then they should easily roll this. You can see a lot of NC tanks on fire there and a lot exploding. So spawn vehicles needed there. They've got a couple over there. Now, can you see my cursor? No. Okay, so we can get an NC spawn vehicle there Sunday. Another Sunday here. Too close to the building there. I think that could get blown up very easily if the VS come out there with a couple of LAs or something with C4. That could be destroyed easily, and that's the only Sunder I can see in close proximity to the base. Now you can see tanks getting picked off one by one here. You really do, when a place like this, need troops to roll in and start to take it. The NC do have overwhelming forces at the moment, but the VS are coming in with some good air support. They're constantly dropping in. There's AV weaponry going off everywhere. Got a lot of VS aircraft up high, just raining fire down these tanks. The NC do not seem to have any anti-air knocking about, which is a big mistake. The VS love their aircraft, I've noticed. As you can see, the enemy NC tanks are just getting obliterated here, left, right and centre. There was an overwhelming force at one point. The NC do seem to have rushed in. I'd say there's probably NC troops in this building here, possibly over here, keeping a good arc of fire on the spawn building. What the VS need to do is some of this air support could do with coming in and strafing the capture point. strafing the capture point. And also these troops need to push out. Again, you know, yes, you're under fire, but if you push out, you can obliterate the enemy quite easily. If this fight ends pretty quickly, I may continue this video on to Camp Connery to see what the tactics will be there. As I said, they have been whittled down quite a lot, the NC. The VS are packing a defense there. Look, there's 25 to 48 troops already in Camp Connery, probably getting ready. If I was the VS, I'd be laying mines in this area here, anti-vehicle mines. Also, let's have a look. Maybe around these ridge lines. It's going to be dark around there, so if you lay anti-vehicle mines, any Sunderer coming in that's not paying attention is going to run over them, boom, instantly explode. That keeps the troops from rolling in. This base is obviously going down. These guys that are in here left need to start taking out some of these heavy vehicles, the tanks that are coming in, the lightnings, the harassers, and delay them as much as possible while the group starts picking up this area. Enemies detectors has dropped, so they may possibly come in to Benson Construction. Let's see if we can get an overview of what's going on. There's a lot of aircraft coming in, but they're not strafing the capture point, which is what I would suggest to do in this sort of situation. Clear that capture point. They are raining hell down on these tanks, so they are taking the armour down as much as they can. But at the end of the day, you know, it's not about killing forces, it's about taking the base. They are starting to capture it back maybe, so they have pushed out. Excellent job by the VS there. There's obviously been a massing of VS troops at Camp Connery. They have then pulled out back into Benson Construction and aided in just pushing the NC out completely. Now the NC are rolling more vehicles in. So again, what the NC need to do, Sunderer in that little crevice there, one down here, Sunderer maybe in that little crevice there. You know, not up against the building or the facility where it's easy to be destroyed. You need to be around the outskirts, get as many Sunderers spawned as you can, so that the troops can just keep pouring into this base. The NC seems to be building up another force up here, ready to all push in at once, which is a good idea. Build your forces up and then all pushing at once, and hopefully you can overwhelm the enemy. Again, while the VS have got a little bit of a respite here, engineers should be out setting up AV turrets around this area, on top of this hill here, across this ridge here. Heavy assaults should be coming out, setting up a perimeter around this base, mining this road here, you know, mining all the points you could put us under, making sure you've got a good force ready for when these guys push in again. As you can see, they're coming in this section up here, northwest. They are laying down a lot of fire there. The VS are pushing out with some tanks. Now they have anti-aircraft vehicles out. There are some NC aircraft in the area. Now the NC have got a hold on the aircraft. That's going to help the NC a lot, because it was the aerial fight that was destroying them badly. Now the VS are having to pull back their aircraft. I don't see many VS armour. There's a few Sunderers breaking out there. but still the VS Air Force is putting a heavy toll on the NC here. A very heavy toll. Obviously the NC are all bunched up here. Bad idea, guys, bad idea. If they get a strafe and run across there, it's gonna hurt you big time. But they are building up a good line of defense there, which is hopefully gonna start pushing back the VS back to Benson, and then again they need to get this line of attack up. Even if if you've got an outfit or two knocking about, if they've got a platoon up, you know, even send a few just past Benson to stop reinforcements coming in from Camp Conway like it did just then, and pushing the NC out. Now, it is starting to get brighter, so A, my cover is going to be blown pretty soon, and B, it's really hard to sneak about when there's daylight. Now VS have got a few tanks rolling out here. Do see the old anti-vehicle weapon being used, not a lot. The VS have got to cross that ridgeline just as I said they should do. They're starting to amass a small force up here on this ridgeline. That one guy there is as tough as nails. He must have took about 3 or 4 guys out there. They've got harassers flying all over the place, doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that's harassing the enemy. That is literally, they do what they say on the tin. They're there to harass. As you see, there's a heavy amount of NC up here, probably pouring down loads of fire in this area, whilst they're distracting the VS. The NC are rolling in from the west here. We can see a couple of Sunras parked up here. They need to start rolling round more. They've got troops coming out. Hopefully they're going to start suppressing the VS. Let's have a see. Yeah, the NC suppression has started. They've got lines of tanks. And what looks to be anti-vehicle troops lining the hills, keeping these guys down. The NC have pushed up with a Sundra, which is brilliant. Hopefully he doesn't come up here and start picking them off while I'm here. Now troops need to start coming out of that vehicle to protect it. At the minute they're not. They are pushing quite well. See a great line of vehicles, well, line of troops and vehicles are pushing their way in. The VS have nicely covered that ridgeline there with whatever they can get. I'm still worried that VS sniper is going to come behind me and nail me. Let's get a bit of protection on this ridgeline for myself while I'm doing this. Excellent, right. Okay, then see it pushing in again. Now, that Sundra, if he deploys in that ridgeline there, perfect. Excellent position, you can pour troops out to cover that base. they now need one of these sunderers. Oh no, there's already one there. Excellent. So they've now got sunderers both north and south sides of the base to pour troops out to lay fire down on this area. Also coming from the north end to pour into here, we have tanks surrounding the base. That's nice. Harassers and lightning inside the spawn area. If they stay there and survive, that's very good cover. What we could do with having is troops in the buildings around that area. Now, as you can see, we also have NC dropping in on the site. There are infiltrators surrounding their base on the outskirts, sending their fire in, also keeping the guys heads down that are in the base. Now again, I've said this before on the forums, I think suppressive XP should be in the game like Battlefield. You know, you've got these guys on the outskirts that are keeping their heads down, keeping, you know, them suppressed, but they may be just a little too far out to get XP from the base. So one thing I'd like would be the XP area to be extended a little bit for people like these guys on the hills, and also suppressive fiery XP for the guys that, like me, heavy assaulters that stay back. Suppress an area, say there's a couple of guys inside a building, I'll fire on that door, keep them suppressed and keep them inside the facility, whilst another team will come round from the back, flank the enemy, coming through a secondary door, light assaults coming from the roof or something like that, and kill the enemy inside while I'm keeping them suppressed. Now, if your bullets are hitting within a certain distance of these guys, you should get a little bit of XP as well, just like you do in Battlefield. I think that would be a nice addition. After all, you know, it's a game about support and teamwork. As you can see, they've pretty much surrounded this camp now. You've still got VS dropping in, which can be very, very dangerous, especially if it's something like a light assaulter dropping in. That's got C4 on him. You can drop in and destroy these sunderers very, very quickly, which will soon put a stop to the assault. Only a matter of a couple of minutes now until this base is taken. As you see, they've beautifully surrounded the camp, which is exactly what you're supposed to do. Keep suppressive fire on the spawn area. There's no other way out of there in this camp. And get guys in the buildings. Don't stand in front of the blue door. It's a one-way door. You're going to get killed. So don't stand in front of it. Stand off at an angle. If anybody pops a head out, you can blow it off happily. You know, but if you stand in front of it, you ain't going to hit nothing, but your face is going to get shot off. So always keep acute angles to the doors. If you're inside a building, stand off to the back, so if they do get out and come through that door, you can riddle them, because again, it's a choke point. You know, just think about where you're positioning yourself. Think, can they hit you? Can they see you before you see them? That's the main thing. You know, think of line of sight. Ease of access to doors. Quick exit if a grenade gets thrown in there. You know, these sort of things. A couple of boxes and bits and parts here you can take cover behind. So they've got tanks and harassers in there holding that base now. There's plenty pouring out of this sunderer here. It's daylight now, so it's a lot harder for the VS to hide, basically. But again, still got VS dropping in, still a threat. But I'd say that spawn area is pretty well secured by surrounding NC forces. Very nice tactics by the NC there. They got pushed back. You know, they started taking the construction. The VS just rolled in heavy numbers, pushed them back. The NC didn't start coming back in dribs and drabs. They held up. They built up a force, and then that entire force pushed in from two directions. They came in from north-northwest and they came in from the west. Excellent tactics there by the NC. Pushed the VS all the way back to their camp. made sure that they were trapped inside the spawn area. They deployed Sunderers up here, there, and the south, west, north. Troops are pouring in from all of them. They had tanks around this side. Tanks around the eastern side came in two uses. One, some of them had a good area of fire onto the spawn area. Plus, they were also stopping any heavy vehicles, tanks, Sunderers coming in from Camp Connery. Anything that's coming this way to try and bolster the reinforcements in Benson Construction was stopped via the heavy armour, or in this case the light assault tanks that were in this section. Very, very nicely done by the NC there. Hopefully now they'll build the force up again, push into this next base, and continue their roll along. It's getting close to the VS war we're getting now, so I'm hoping they're going to hit the north bases next, then push to the south bases, just due to the fact that the TR are fighting very, very heavily down here. If they can take these surrounding bases, then the TR is probably going to take these over here, and then the impact site is going to be some hell of a fight going on, just due to the fact that the NC will be starting to push down from the north as well. But I have to say, they're all building the forces up again. They're getting a line of assault, so literally a front line for the NC, which the way to firepower is just forcing the VS back into the base. I'm assuming the VS are now probably camped on top of Camp Connery, laying fire down on them. But very, very nice attack there, and a valiant effort by the VS, I have to say. They did push the NC back once, which was an excellent effort. But from what I can see, the NC are just a little better organised in that attack. You know, they're getting the spawn vehicles, the Sunderers, down in nice positions, well covered positions, and the tanks are there giving the support that they're there to give. You know, wiping out enemy tanks, wiping out any aircraft that are coming in, keeping the skies clear, because everybody knows you win a war in the sky. And you just saw that proved by the VS pushing the NC back by air power. The amount of scythes that were flying around and nailing the tanks, that's what forced the NC back, was the amount of tanks and vehicles that they lost due to VS air power. But as soon as the NC started rolling out the anti-aircraft vehicles, that was it. They were starting to win, because the VS were just not well enough organised to defend this base. Personally, if I was the VS and I was defending it with an outfit or a team, I would have mined the exterior. You only need a couple of engineers to do that, you know, a couple of mines here, a couple of mines there. I'd have had a Sunderer possibly behind this wall here, depending on how close you can get to this facility with a Sunday. If not, even over here, hidden in this area. I'd have had VS infantry in the buildings, so that when the troops come pouring in, you know, behind this cover here, if the troops come pouring in here, you can start mowing them down. Always cover choke points. If you've got enough heavy assaulters or any sort of heavy weaponry covering a choke point, it's going to be very, very hard for them to get through. Your light assaulters can be on the roofs, raining fire down on them, and also covering the heavy assault guys at rear, because don't forget, everybody's got light assault, so you've always got to be looking out. That's why you need additional forces on roofs to make sure the light assault don't bounce over walls, capture the point when you're not paying attention, or just bounce over and destroy the cover that you have already set up. Every choke point should have been covered. Again, the VS could have kept their aircraft coming in. A Liberator would have been very, very handy to have, raining fire down. Heavy assault and engineers could have been a little further back as well, up around here, pouring fire in. But as you saw, the NC had a very, very well organised team going in there. They built the forces up and they all pushed at once. That's how you take a base, ladies and gentlemen. I was very impressed with that. Now the NC are pushing their way onto Camp Connery quite heavily there. Okay guys, I would say that will be it for this one. Hopefully that's only about half an hour-ish long after I've put all the rest of the bits of that together. That was a fight for Benson Construction. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you on the battlefield sometime soon.